I still catch myself acting like the underdog. Still walk into rooms a bit braced, like I've got something to prove, like I'm the one who's behind and about to overtake everyone. And the strange thing is that this isn't really true anymore. It was true for years growing up, especially socially, especially with girls. I was properly behind for a long time. But at some point that stopped being the case, and nobody sent me the memo, or I just decided to ignore it. In a lot of the areas I used to feel behind in, I'm actually ahead now. And I still play the underdog anyway, because I like being him. Nobody expects anything from an underdog, so everything you do is a bonus. It's a comfortable seat to be in. And the obvious fix, which I've done a couple times, is just reinvent myself. Drop the underdog, become the guy who's actually ahead, lock in and come back unrecognizable. You've heard that advice, it's everywhere. And then I came across the opposite advice, put really well, that says stop trying to reinvent yourself. That reinvention is just you deciding the person you are right now isn't good enough. And that the people who try to become someone new, to get away from themselves, end up worse, because they took the whole problem with them. So which one is it then? Become someone new, or stop trying to become someone new? I've been contemplating about that for a little bit, because I've done one thing in one season of my life and done the other in another season of my life, and I think both of them are missing the exact same thing. In order to highlight this, I want to tell you a story about meeting my girlfriend after her exam last summer. I was waiting outside the examination room, and I met a group of her friends there that I'd never seen before. So I went up and talked to them. I didn't think about anything, I didn't prepare anything, I just spoke to them for however long it was. And we had some good conversations. It was like a normal case of meeting new people for me at that point. So the next day my girlfriend comes up to me and she's like, "How is it that all my friends love you?" She was jokingly also saying that, but then just told me that it seemed like I was a genuinely good guy. That's what she'd heard from all of them. And my first immediate thought wasn't nice. It was, is that really true? Because I was immediately brought back to when I was the underdog. That cannot be me. They must have caught me on a good day. She was being generous. Because I still think of myself as the guy who's bad at this. Behind socially, awkward, the one who has to work at it. Except I'm not, and I haven't been for a while. That charisma isn't the personality I was issued. It was years of practice. I built that myself. And once again someone handed me direct evidence that this was true. And I still couldn't save it to my memory. So let me put the spotlight back onto you, the viewer. When you say something like, "That's just who I am," it could be about being shy, anxious, disorganized, whatever yours is. It might feel like it's self-awareness. But what it actually does is you just took a thing that you do and you turned it into your own identity, the actual thing you are. For example, if you decided you wanted to try to build this business you've always dreamed about and you procrastinated for the whole week, you might say, "I procrastinated this week," and that's a descriptor of what you did. But I can guarantee you, a lot of you internally, you feel like you're a procrastinator. You take it on as your identity. And now it's suddenly a build that you end up being stuck with because you keep telling yourself these things on an identity level. Most of these, they aren't even your idea. You didn't decide you wanted to be the quote-unquote anxious one off a list when you were 15 years old. It might have been some kind of NPC that just said one line to you that really stuck with you. It can be a teacher, a role in the friend group, a family member that needed you to just calm down and be the easy kid. So they told you something that you can't forget anymore. I remember being told that I was the quiet one when I had just started in high school, and that really stuck with me because I was so insecure about it. I knew it was a thing, but hearing it from others, that just solidified that identity for me, which is why it was so hard to break out of. And the reason why it's so difficult to break out of is that there is a deep comfort in actually knowing who you are. It feels much safer than having these parts of yourself that you don't really know well. So you decide to stay because it's something that is safe to you. And that old identity of yours, it tries to keep you safe in situations that are difficult for you. If you feel socially anxious, it'll tell you things like, "I'm just not a social person." So it gives you a free check to get out of every single hard conversation in your life. But that also means you'll never grow in this area if you cling to this old identity. And this can go on for many, many years because when it becomes a habit and an ingrained identity, you don't really consciously think about every time you say no in a social situation. That's suddenly just what you do habitually. And at this point, when you finally realize and you want to change, this is when you really have to think about reinventing yourself. Because that old version of you, it did serve you up to a point. You needed this layer of protection to proceed with whatever stage you're at in life at the time. And that's how it was for my underdog. It gave me a lot of hope that at some point, I'm gonna prove them all wrong. I'm gonna show them. I'm gonna be successful. I'm gonna build the physique and not be this skinny kid. And I'm gonna be good socially and with girls. And I'm gonna get the life I want. That's what motivated me. That's why I took on that identity of the underdog. So even after it stops being true, after you've outlived that identity, you might keep reaching for it because it was good, it was fun, it was comfortable, it was safe to have this thing that gave you hope, even if it doesn't serve you anymore. And this is the point where the whole reinvention advice, it's the most attractive one when you get this realization, but it's also kind of dangerous because if you just straight up burn the old character and try to become a new one, you skip the bridge to actually get to that point. This is the rare candy shortcut. You skip the battling and jump straight to the final evolution. And in real life, it doesn't work like that because change takes a long time. And if you just try to reinvent yourself in 3 months, there's a lot of the old stuff that's still clinging onto you that you just can't straight up let go of. The actual realistic way to do this is just slowly stripping off things of the old character, the one that was handed to you, the one that you took on because you needed to, and let go of parts of that while you integrate newer parts of the character you really want. When you do that, the two pieces of advice and internal characters you have, they stop being opposites. It starts feeling like you're truly evolving at the pace that you need to evolve at. Remember, you just might be a Hydreigon that evolves at level 64. You might not be like a normal starter that evolves at 36. And while we're talking about evolution, I think the concept of Pokemon evolution is just such a good analogy for this, because if you go from a Charmander to a Charizard, you still have the same traits of that Charmander as the Charizard. You're still a fire type. You still specialize in special attack and speed. While you're not super defensive, those traits are still there. It's just a reinvented version of the same thing. So you're just adding onto the best traits of the Charmander. And then you're subtracting the starter moves like Scratch and Ember for Flamethrower and Dragon Pulse. And at the same time, evolution only happens a couple of times. So you're not constantly reinventing yourself into 10 different forms. You might do it a couple times in your life, if we're talking like these big reinventions. And I think that's true for many people. The first time might be when they get into high school, they get around some different people, they might change some significant character traits, which makes them more confident socially and with dating. And then maybe later in life, they decide to change their career path completely, which changes the kind of things that they value and the kind of character traits they have themselves. So the answer is really both, in terms of should you reinvent yourself and should you stay the same. If you're on self-improvement, you'll probably be doing both, just at different stages in your life. And before I close off this video, I want to give you some actionable advice on how to actually approach this. And we're going to do this in 4 moves, and they're pretty small, so I really encourage you to do this to get the full value out of having watched this video so far. Number 1 is you want to catch the sentence. Every time you say, I'm just a blank, or that's not me, there's the thing happening in real time. There's the identity talking to you. You don't need to do anything about it just yet, just notice when they come up. And then you want to flip the habit from being a factual thing to something that's an action. And let me give you an example so this actually makes sense. If you've been struggling socially, you might say something like, I'm not a social person, but you could instead try to say something like, I haven't practiced this much. One of those is tied to your identity, the other is a skill issue. And skill issues, you know from Pokemon, you can just grind away at and level up in. Then the third thing is, I want you to do one thing that the old character wouldn't do. And this is the actual mechanism for change, not just a mindset thing. It is that if you want to become more social, you need to talk to people. And of course, there's different levels to how to approach this thing of becoming better socially. That's outside of the scope of this video, but you want to do one single thing today that can bring you closer to taking on that new identity of actually being a social person, the person who has practiced. So in this case, go out and practice. Go out and have a small conversation with someone. If you don't know how to approach this, just ask someone for direction to something. It can be in a supermarket, it can be directions to find a specific shop you need to go to, anything like that. Just anything where you get to talk to a real person. You do the action, then over multiple repetitions of this, you'll start feeling the updates to your character. And number 4, don't blame the old character when you suddenly meet resistance and you feel this is hard, because that old character was doing a job. The underdog is what genuinely got me here. Even though I sometimes have blamed him for holding me back, I've also realized that I'm very grateful that he was fighting to not be the underdog anymore. And I want you to let go of the blame and feeling shameful that you're not further ahead in life with this thing that you want it to be. So I want to summarize some key points of this video now. That the most comfortable place there is a version of yourself you've already outgrown. And it'll keep you small for years without ever feeling like a prison, because it feels like home. You are allowed to evolve from here, and evolving isn't betraying who you are. It's actually the exact opposite. It's finally becoming the exact thing you want it to be. I'm still in the process of setting the Underdog down. I'm not on the complete other side of telling you how this turned out. I'm just a bit further into the same thing. So please leave a comment. What's one character you're still playing that isn't true anymore? Name it, then go ahead and do one thing the new guy would do. That's all it takes to start overwriting the old save file.